The following program contains flashing images which may affect viewers with photosensitive epilepsy.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of the development of. In this episode we'll tell you something about the development of arms.
Yes, because we may not use them in our everyday lives, but weapons have played a very important role throughout human history.
So that's why we're going to take you from the caveman with a club to the robotic weapons of today. Divided in two basic groups: the sticks and the stones. The sticks are used to disable your opponent, just to hit him or slice him, and the stones can be used to bring down your opponent from a distance. Now, I'll first show you the sticks. In the prehistoric time, people used just an ordinary stick. It was used to hit someone or slash them on, or slash an animal, kill it. Very easy and simple. But in the medieval time, swords were developed, and it was a real improvement. This one is made of iron, which is it's quite heavy, but it could be sharpened much more, so you could really kill your opponent really fast and not have to hit him like 100 times with a stick. These ones were still quite heavy, so in the early Renaissance time, steel was developed, which was much lighter, but then again also much stronger. So it could be a real small sword. You could make it very sharp, and it was very easy. But these swords were not used by the military anymore, because the rifle was invented. So that's a pity. But they were still used by civilians in duels or stuff like that. Well, the katana, it's a Japanese weapon. It's very sharp, and it's very well decorated, because the samurai thought it had an own soul, and it was not just a weapon, but it really had an old soul, and you had to take it with care. Well, as you can see, it is well decorated, but this is more like a weapon used in the Second World War, in which there were made a lot of copies, millions of copies of the original bonsai sword. And now these are more simple. Then the smaller sticks, just an ordinary stick. It's not very special. You could hit someone with it, and that's it. The pocket knife, it is still used in military, and just also ordinary people use it as a tool, not as a weapon. There are all kinds of other things on it, like scissors or things like that. The butterfly knife. These ones are used in the crime scene a lot, because you could open it and close it really fast, and it's very light. You could slash someone very fast. This is an Eastern knife. As you can see, it's the same as a sword. It's well decorated. It's very nice. It was extremely sharp, and it has this small hole in it. So if you want to slash someone and you pull it back, it could even hurt it more, because it won't pull back that easy. So it would bring more damage. The combat knife, it is still used today, and just as a tool, but also as a weapon. You could throw it at someone and then hit him, but you could also use it as just to slash him or do anything you wanted. The bayonet, you could also use it as a knife, as a big knife, but it's more commonly used as a mounted on a rifle. So when you were walking through the bush or something, and you saw your opponent coming, you thought, I can't hit him anymore, I'll slice him. Which was very useful, because the Japanese, against the Americans, the Japanese used it a lot and just killed them in a second. These are the sticks. Now Teun will explain you something about stones.
The advantage of stones is that you can use them from a distance, so you don't have to get close to your opponent where they might hurt you. The first example of stones is obviously a stone. Very simple crew weapon, but still used today. What you do, you take it in your hand and throw it at your opponent or an animal, and he or it dies. Of course, people very soon realized that stones were not ideal weapons and started to develop more accurate and better weapons. One of the first new weapons in the category of stones was the bow. This way you could pull the string back and the energy would be stored in the string and the wood, and once you would release the arrow, it would fly off and hopefully hit a target. This was of course far more accurate and much more deadly than a simple stone. However, in the 14th century, gunpowder was discovered in China. This would set up a revolution throughout the battlefields of Europe and the world. Because with gunpowder, people started building guns. First, guns were very big and mainly referred to as cannons. However, very soon they realized that there was a need for smaller, man-portable weapons. This led to the development of the gun. The first guns were very inaccurate, and to have any effect, the soldiers would line up in hundreds or sometimes even thousands, and all fire their rifle at the same time, creating a wall of lead, so they would always hit something. Also, these guns took a very long time to load. You'd have to, after firing a shot, you'd have to pull up the gun, put in gunpowder, cotton, wool, and then a bullet, and I'll stamp it down with a stick. Of course, this is not a very nice thing to do when you're on a battlefield. So, people started looking for more faster ways to fire a rifle. One of the first things was breech loading, which meant you could load your rifle at the back end of it instead of dropping gunpowder, a bullet and all that other stuff at the top. You could open the weapon, put in the gunpowder and the bullet, close it again, and then use the mechanism to fire it. The mechanism usually had a spring which was attached to a hammer, which could be triggered by a trigger. However, black powder created lots of smoke, so later non-smoking gunpowders were developed. Also, the cartridge was born, which meant you didn't have to put in gunpowder and a bullet every time. The gunpowder and the bullet would be in a metal casing. This meant that firing could happen much faster. Bolt-action rifles were born. By pulling back this bolt and then pulling it forward again, you loaded it around into the chamber. Then by pulling the trigger, it would fire. To shoot again, the only thing you'd have to do is unlock the bolt, pull it back, push it forward and fire again. Also, the desire for accuracy continued. A major development in this was the sniper rifle. The sniper rifle uses a telescopic sight with crosshairs, which are just two lines aligned with the barrel of the gun on the telescope, and with this you could see and shoot enemies from a big distance, up to a mile. This was first developed in World War I, where it was used to shoot enemy officers and soldiers during the stalemate. Also, the desire for faster firing weapons continued, and the machine gun was developed. The machine gun is an automatic weapon, which means you pull the trigger and the weapon keeps firing until it's out of ammo or overheats. This was also used a lot during World War I, where it was used to mow down incoming lines of enemy soldiers. Same as with sticks, also the desire for smaller weapons came. This led to the development of the pistol. Pistols were then, and still are, mainly used for self-defense. Pistols fire smaller rounds, but are easier to carry, because guns, as you can see, are quite large. So mainly police officers and other soldiers use them. Nowadays, every soldier on the battlefield and a lot of civilians and criminals also carry pistols for their self-defense, because they are small, but still effective at small range to defend yourself. But it doesn't end there. Because after we develop weapons and vehicles, we started mounting our weapons on vehicles. So next we'll tell you something about aerial weapons and vehicle-mounted weapons. The first vehicle ever to be used as a weapon is the horse. Though technically not a vehicle, horses are used for thousands of years. Men sit on horses while wielding swords, spears or bows. Also, horses are used to get around the battlefield quickly. With the invention of the car and the truck, we started using trucks and cars to move equipment, soldiers and supplies around the battlefield. Smaller cars, called jeeps, were used to mount or carry weapons. Also, they were used to carry soldiers or supplies around the battlefield. They are very good at off-road driving. During the First World War, the tank came into being. A tank is an armored vehicle which drives on tracks and is armed with guns and machine guns. These tanks, however, were very slow and vulnerable to enemy fire. During the Second World War, the tank was transformed into a fast, heavily armored, heavy equipped battle machine. This meant that entire new tactics in which assaulting tanks support assaulting infantry could be developed. The Germans did this and called it Blitzkrieg. It was very effective in Poland, France and the other Low Countries. However, today we still use tanks. They are much faster, much better armored and have even more weapons than tanks of then. They are the ultimate battle machines. They can fight anybody, anywhere, at any time.
Now we will continue our lesson giving you some information about the development of airplanes and other flying vehicles. The first aircraft was built by the brothers Wright in 1903. The first motorized flight in history took only 12 seconds. Orville Wright flew a short but important 36.5 meters. After that, they made a lot of other flights which were much longer. During the First World War, the first mass-produced airplanes were constructed. These small aircraft were almost exclusively used as surveillance aircraft and were not equipped with big machine guns. In the beginning of the war, the pilots didn't even have a handgun, so they couldn't bring down an enemy plane other than just flying straight in it. During the Second World War, the aircraft became more important. Thousands of planes were mass-produced and the technology got better and better. Bombers and smaller combat planes let all hell break loose in enemy cities. The first helicopters were made too, but these ones weren't very efficient. After the Second World War, the development of high-tech airplanes slowed down, but didn't stop. The jet engine was developed and the planes got faster and faster. Also, the technological improvement was great. And this improvement hasn't stopped yet. Nowadays, some airplanes can even fly without pilots. What will be next?